له فيها هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك، فباليقين أخضع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاحديك وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك، لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما، وما كانت لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، وأنت جل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما، أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي ومولاي، فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها، أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل قبيح أسررته وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته، أخفيته أو أظهرته، وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي، وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم، وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت، وأن توفر حظي من كل خير تنزله أو إحسان تفضله أو بر تنشره أو رزق تبسطه أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستره، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي، يا من بيده ناصيتي، يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورة وبخدمتك موصولة، وأعمالي عندك مقبولة، حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا، وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا، يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، قو على خدمتك جوارحي واشدد على العزيمة جوانحي، وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك، حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين، وأدنو منك دنو الموقنين، وأخافك مخافة الموقنين. وأسرع إليك في المبادرين، وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين، وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين، وأخافك مخافة الموقنين، وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرد، ومن كادني فكد، واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك، وأقربهم منزلة منك، وأخصهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك. وجد لي بجودك، واعطف علي بمجدك، واحفظني برحمتك، واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا، وقلبي بحبك متيما، ومن علي بحسن جابتك، وأقلني عثرتي، واغفر زلتي، فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك، وأمرتهم بدعائك، وضمنت لهم الإجابة. فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي، وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي، فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي، وبلغني مناي، ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي، واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي. يا سريع الرضا، يا سريع الرضا، اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء، فإنك فعال لما تشاء. يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى، ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاحه البكاء. يا سابغ النعم، يا دافع النقام، يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام، يا عالما لا يعلم، صل على محمد وآل محمد، وافعل بما أنت أهله. وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله، وسلم تسليما كثيرا. إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والشهداء أموات الحضور خاصة، وإلى الأخوات المساهمين والأخوة الكرام في إطعام الصائم جزاهم الله خيرا، إلى أرواح أمواتهم جميعا وأمواتكم. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة تسبقها الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. تقبل أعمالكم أجر، جزاكم الله خير.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصل اللهم على محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليكم أيها الأخوة والأخوات ورحمة الله وبركاته. تقبل الله صيامكم وطاعاتكم. بداية إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وأموات باذلي الطعام لهذه الليلة وأموات الحضور، رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة. غدا إن شاء الله ليلة القدر الأولى وليلة ضربة الإمام علي عليه السلام، فإن شاء الله راح يكون برنامجنا مستمر ل3 ليالي إلى 5 ليالي إلى ليلة القدر الثالثة إن شاء الله. غدا يوجد إفطار إن شاء الله، لا أحد يجيب فطور، مو باتلك، الإفطار من تبرع. نسأل الله أن يتقبل أعمالنا إن شاء الله. وليلة 21 أيضا يوجد إفطار تبرع، وليلة 23. اليوم الاثنين ليلة 20 طبعا هو الحداد 3 أيام، ما في وجبة إفطار. إذا تحبون إخوان بعد المحاضرة، إذا تحبون نتعاون إن شاء الله حتى نرتب يصير تبرع من الأخوة، ممكن إذا ممكن، إذا ما ممكن إن شاء الله خليه باطلك. والآن مع اي نعم صحيح، رفع المصاحف كل واحد يجيب ويا قرآن لحد الآن، لأن ما عندنا مجموعة قراين، أو نجيب أجزاء إن شاء الله. يمكن موجود أجزاء أو موجود قراين هناك، وإن شاء الله نجيب اللي عنده المهم يجيب قرآن إن شاء الله وياه. والآن مع المحاضرة سماح السيد مصطفى المدرسي، نحييه بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أناديه، ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا أعصيه، ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازيه. فكم من موهبة هنيئة قد أعطاني، وعظيمة مخوفة قد كفاني، فأثني عليه حامدا وأذكره مسبحا، لا خائفا ولا وجلا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير الأنام حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد، اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين، وحجته على الخلائق أجمعين، الحجة ابن الحسن فداه أرواح العالمين. قال الله العظيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. Fear is a major driving force in our lives. In fact, the element of fear is perhaps present in everything that we do or say. And because we as humans have a strong urge and tendency to engage in sinister acts and to do evil, sometimes fear is necessary to tame that wild beast within us. Otherwise, if we feel at liberty of doing what we desire to do, then we would go rogue, without a doubt. However, we have two types of fear. We have negative fear and positive fear. Negative fear is a fear that obstructs our view, distorts our mind. A debilitating fear disables the ability for us to think straight. Makes us behave irrationally. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about this type of fear in the Quran. ذَلِكُمُ الشَّيْطَانِ إِنَّمَا يُخَوِّفُ أَوْلِيَاءَهُ. One of the things that the devil does is instigating fear in the hearts and minds of the people. Be careful, you're going to be poor. Be a crook. Try to earn money, irrespective of the source of income, whether it's legitimate or illegitimate. You want to blend in? Out of fear of becoming a social outcast, he tells you, be like everyone else. You want to party, go have fun. Otherwise, you'll be a social outcast. And a lot of people are motivated by fear. Fear of being alone, fear of becoming poor, fear of many things. We find that the motive for many of the things that we engage in is fear. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks about this tactic, this tool that the shaitan uses, He says, فَلَا تَخَافُوهُمْ. Don't fear them. وَخَافُونِ. The irony, He doesn't say you shouldn't be fearful of anything. He says, don't fear them. وَخَافُونِ. But fear me. And this is the positive fear. How? Why? Fearing God is positive? Yes. First of all, when you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you rid yourself of every other fear. Fear of poverty, fear of falling ill, fear of your life collapsing, fear of becoming a social outcast. When you have the fear of God, you become obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you're obedient to Him and when you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala controls everything. This is why the fear of everything else will be removed from your heart. But the fear of God. This is why the hadith says that every mu'min should strike a balance between two things in his life, in her life. بين الخوف والرجاء, between hope and fear. Fear of what? Fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you become mindful of what you say. You become mindful of what you do. You become mindful of what you listen to. You become mindful of what you see with your eyes. You start to think about the consequences of your actions. That's what fear does. This is why a hadith says, وَالْمُؤْمِنْ لَا يُصْلِحُهُ إِلَّا الْخَوْفُ. A mu'min can only behave himself, herself, through fear. It's like, imagine if the authorities say that today is a free day, no police will be present on the road. How many people will behave themselves and not break the law, not drive, not speed while driving, not drive recklessly? Only when you're fearful, when you have an exam, you find that your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes so strong. You want to pass in this test. You have a sick child and you want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure him. This is when your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes so strong. When you're ill, they found like a tumor in your body and they take a biopsy and tell you that the results will be back in a week's time. And you're waiting for the results. This is when you strengthen your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because if it's cancerous, this will change everything about your life. وَالْمُؤْمِنْ لَا يُصْلِحُهُ إِلَّا الْخَوْفُ. And hence, telling you these stories of people that were given the chance to see the hereafter and then come back and tell us about their experience. عادة نحن نحاول أن نلاحظ الهواجس التي نعيشها في دار الدنيا. عندنا هواجس كثيرة. هذه الهواجس احنا نحاول نأمنها، مخاوف عندنا لازم نزيحها. عندنا في الرواية رواية جميلة عن الإمام الصادق عليه السلام، يقول: من أغاث مؤمنا لهفانا. مؤمن يمر بمشكلة، يمر بأزمة، سواء كانت الأزمة مالية، اجتماعية، أسرية، مرضية، تروح أنت تساعده، تعينه على قضاء حاجته، إما تسعفه بالمال، إما تروح أنت تحاول مثلا عنده مشاكل كذا تصلح بين الخصماء. الله سبحانه وتعالى يعطي ذلك الشخص 72 رحمة. الرحمة يعني شنو ما ندري، لكن القرآن يقول: ورحمة ربك خير مما يجمعون. القرآن يقول حول الخضر وموسى، يقول: آتيناه رحمة من عندنا. مروا على عبد صالح ما يجيب اسمه الخضر، آتيناه رحمة، نفحة من رحمة الله شملته فسوته الخضر. هاي رحمة الله. يقول 72 رحمة الله يعطي لهذا الشخص اللي نفس عن مؤمن كربة. هاي العبادة الحقيقية إخواني. احنا أحيانا نعم ننخرط في بعض العبادات، مثلا قراءة القرآن كلش مهم في شهر رمضان، نحتاج هاي غذاء الروح. لكن انتوا لاحظوا خطبة النبي متنوعة، يعني اكو قراءة القرآن، اكو العبادة، اكو الصلاة، اكو الدعاء، اكو ايضا قضاء حوائج المؤمنين، اكو الاهتمام بخلق الله. ليش؟ انا يعني خطر في بالي ربما يكون صحيح، اما واحد يقسم وقته، اما لا. احيانا واحد ما يقدر على معاونة المؤمنين فنشوف ينشغل بالعبادة. انا جدتي الله يرحمها، والدة الوالد ويرحم موتاكم، كانت تقرأ القرآن كثيرا وكانت حافظة للقرآن. سنة من السنين أتاها أحد أعمامي فسألها، قال: هاي يا ختمة، فما رادت تقول وكذا، عادة ما كانت تتكلم. قال: خو يا ختمة، أصر عليها من الصبح لليل بس تقرأ قرآن. قالت: الحمد لله الله وفقني أختم 40 ختمة للقرآن في شهر رمضان، يعني باليوم تقريبا ختمة وشي. حافظة للقرآن طبعا، تشو إذا حافظ مثلا سورة ياسين تقرأها خلال 3 دقائق، ما حافظها يطول لك مثلا ربع ساعة. بالنتيجة مرة كبيرة ما عندها شيء ثاني. لكن أنت أب، عندك أبناء لازم تربيهم، ما يعرفون القرآن تقعد وياهم تعلمهم القرآن، ما يعرفون معاني القرآن تعلمهم معاني القرآن، سنن الحياة. هاي من أفضل العبادات. لاحظوا روايات واحد يعلم ابنه سورة الحمد، شوف ايش قد ثواب بيها، وانت بالقبر هاي النور يأتي إلى قبرك. فأكو عبادات من نوع آخر. من نفس عن مؤمن كربة الله يعطيه 72 رحمة. يقول يعجل واحدة منها، يعجل له واحدة من هذه الرحمة، حتى شنو؟ لإصلاح معيشته. أنت في دار الدنيا عندك أمور، روحات جيات، بيت تريد تشتري، تريد تزوج أولادك، تريد ما أدري تدزهم للمدرسة، تريد تسافر، تريد كذا. رحمة واحدة كافية تتكفل بكل أمورك في دار الدنيا. ويدخر 72 رحمة لأهوال يوم القيامة وأفضاعها. يعني إحنا صدق غافلين عن الآخرة، مخاوف الدنيا لازم دائما we address our fear with respect to this life, what we deal with, and we neglect the hereafter and the fears that people will be facing. Of course, I'm not saying that it's all fear and fear and fear. No. They come to Imam Ali alayhi salam. They said to him, ما الاستعداد للموت? How can I prepare myself for the journey to the afterlife? The Imam says, الاتيان بالفرائض. You perform your obligations towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You pray, you fast, you do the things that you need to do. والاجتناب عن المحارم. You stay away from sin. We all know what sin is, right? والاشتمال بالمكارم. We have moral values that we espouse, right? Try to practice your morality. Practice them. Be generous to others, be kind to others, be loving to others. Be kind to your parents, siblings, children. Then the Imam says, وَلَا يُبَالِي. After doing these three things, وَقَعَ الْمَوْتُ عَلَيْهِ أَمْ وَقَعَ عَلَى الْمَوْتِ. And you should fear not after doing these three things, whether death falls upon you or you fall upon death. Easy. But these stories give us insight into what is happening behind the curtain, what is happening beyond this life. And I mean, even though I try to study the words of Ahl Bayt alayhim salam, but when I listen to their stories, like the first story that I mentioned of the woman that said, I once spoke against a man that was dead and I saw that man. And every Thursday night I'm giving charity so that when I die, I wouldn't have to, encounter him again and be answerable to him. Every Thursday night. This was an eye-opener for me. Yes, the hadith says, مَنْ رَدَّ عَنْ مُؤْمِنٍ غِيبَةً. You're sitting together and you're laughing and someone is backbiting another mu'min, right? أَغْلَقَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ أَلْفَ بَابٍ مِّنَ الشَّرِّ. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will seal 1,000 doors of misery upon that person because he refused to hear the backbiting of another person. These things motivate us, but the element of fear is also very effective. Very effective. You backbite someone or you listen to someone backbiting a mu'min on the day of judgment, or when you die, you'll have to encounter these people. أما القصة التي أردت أن أذكرها هذه الليلة قصة رجل عمره 42 عام أثناء الحملة الأولى للكورونا، الموجة الأولى للكورونا. هذا أصيب بعلائم الكورونا، شعر بالخوف الشديد والقلق. تدرون ذاك الوقت كانت هذه العلائم توأم مع الخوف والقلق. فأخبر زوجته أنه ربما لن يفلت من الموت هذه المرة. قالت له موت؟ نعم عمرك 42 سنة صحيح سالم كذا. قال لا، القضية ترى تختلف هالمرة، دير بالك على الجهال، احتمال أنا ما أرجع. He felt dizzy, he felt unwell. They took him to the hospital. He said, I felt lightheaded, I was very dizzy. They found me a bed. He was hospitalized. They attached the heart monitor to his chest. He said, a few moments later, I fainted. I could hear the sounds in the beginning, but then I was in a different world. فيقول شعرت كأنه أنا في عالم آخر. هاي العالم شنو ما أفتهم، بس كأني أنا محاط بالغيوم. هذا فهمه للوضع اللي كان يعيشه. As if I was in the middle of the clouds. أسير ومعي شخصان. منو دول الشخصين ما أدري. He had company, 2 people were walking with him. طبعا he says that my senses were intact. I could feel the pain, I could see everything, but my body wasn't with me. So, as if we were going towards a huge tunnel. كلهم يصفون حالة عثورهم على نفق كبير، يدخلوهم في داخل نفق، كلهم يقولون هالشيء. فنفق جدا كبير، يصف النفق ووضعه وألوانه وكذا. يقول دخلت في ذلك النفق، أول ما دخلت التقيت برجل. هناك أنت أي شيء يصيبك لما تلتقي بالأشخاص وكذا، رأسا القصة والخلفيات وكذا كلها تستحضرها. يقول I encountered a man, and all of a sudden I understood what's the story of this man and why I am encountering him, why I'm meeting him. The guy is a mechanic. This is the story of a guy that was a mechanic. He had a garage. So this man that he's meeting with right now came with his car and he bought engine oil from me. He said the engine oil that I sold him was expired. And it wrecked the engine of that guy's car. So when he looked at me, he was angry. He wasn't happy. He was upset. He said, and he wasn't using words, he was just communicating with me. I knew what he wanted to say, what he was saying to me without words. He said that I will not be pleased with you for what you did to me. He said, when he said this, I couldn't even breathe. I was so upset. I was so sad. I was about to fall. I wanted to seek forgiveness, but they didn't give me a chance. Khalas, you've had your chance in life. Khalas. So they said to me, you think it's just one person? No, you'll see other people as well. Of course, the guy wasn't religious at all. He said, I didn't believe in anything. Then he meets another guy. Again, he was a customer. When I met with him, he mentions his name. He said, when I met with him, and they were both dead. When this happened to him, they were dead. And he met their souls. He said, when I met that guy, again, he was angry, he wasn't happy. And the story of that guy was that he brought his car and I changed the engine oil. He said to me, did you change the filter? I said, I changed the filter. But this wasn't true. I was lying. So he takes the car to another garage and they tell him that he didn't change the filter. So he comes to see me. He said, are you really a Sayyid? He was a Sayyid from the descendants of Rasulullah. Are you really a Sayyid? You seem to be like a fake Sayyid. He said, no, I am a Sayyid. He said, the food that you're giving to your family is from illegitimate source. Your life is messed up. What the hell are you doing? We'll meet on the day of judgment. He said, back then I just wanted to be smart. I didn't care about these moral values that as a Muslim we need to abide by. So he said it was so distressing that I would like to address the families of these two. He mentions their names. He said, I am ready to do whatever it takes to seek the forgiveness of these two people, even if I have to give my life. And this is how horrible it was. With haqqun nas, should be very careful, even if it's just a word. So he said, I'm willing to give my life just to seek forgiveness from these two. And then he said, my entire life was shown to me from the very beginning until the very end, like a movie. He said, even though it was like a movie that was shown to me, it was like they were fast forwarding everything, but it wasn't everything that I saw. I actually lived that moment. I go back in time and I see everything happening as if I'm reenacting all these scenes. So the first thing that I saw was when I was 6 months old. Or maybe this is what he remembers. Now that he's back, he's talking about what he saw. He said, عفوا أنا أسترسل أحيانا باللغة وأنسى. فيقول أنا التقيت بنفرين. الشخص الأول كنت غاشة في عملي، صاحب جراج، كنت غاشة في عملي، مطيلة دهن اكسباير صاير وخرب الماكينة الماطور مال السيارة. فالتقيت به هناك وما كان راضي عني. التقيت بشخص آخر هم مغير الدهن مالته ولاعب عليه. يقول نظر إلي نظرة غاضب مني وقال ما راضي عنك. يقول أنا الآن حاضر أطي روحي بس حتى ذولا يعفوني ويغفروا لي. لأنه لمن كنت أشوف ردة فعلهم هذا كان ينتقل إلي ويتحول إلى أذى وعذاب لا يوصف. فبعدين يقول شفت حياتي أنا كلها مرت أمامي. أول مشهد شفته أنا عمري 6 أشهر. My father was carrying me. I'm 6 months old. Suddenly I slipped. My father said, عفوا, he said that we were visiting Imam al-Rida. I slipped while my father was near the pond inside the sahan. I slipped, so my father said, Ya Imam Riza. And then he held my leg. I didn't fall. I was about to fall on my head. So suddenly they interview the father. He said, I had forgotten about this incident. But when he mentioned it, I remembered it. It's true. This is what happened to him. He slipped, and I said, Ya Imam al-Rida, he was about to fall on his head. He was only 6 months old. He said, I even saw my father when he was young, when he was in the battlefield during the Iran-Iraq war. I saw when he was sitting, they were attacked by the Iraqis, and his friend was sitting next to him. His friend was injured. He died later on. My father carried him. He was talking to him, and he mentions this. The father said that I've never mentioned these stories to anyone. But now that he's telling me this, it's as if he was standing next to me. يقول أنا شفت مشاهد من حياة والدي وأيام شبابه وكذا. نقل للأب. الأب هم يقول كأنه كان هذا يمي شاهد هالأمور مع أنه ما حد ما يعرف عنها. فإلى أن يقول شفت مشهد من نفسي وأنا عمري 10 أعوام. I was 10 years old when me and some of my relatives, we went inside my father's aunt's house. We go inside the house. Apparently she wasn't inside the house. She was an old lady. So they go to her bedroom, and she had an old box. So we break the lock. We open the box. It was filled with ancient items. One of the things that I saw was a gold-plated plate. So I took it. I wanted to see how it feels when I touch it, because it's old. I injured my hand. So I started to bleed. I panicked, so I threw the plate to the neighbor's house. So this scene was shown to me. Suddenly I met my father's aunt. She said to me, again, communicating without words, she said, this was given to me by my husband, and I'm not radiyah. May you be punished for this, for what you did. He said, now every time I go to the cemetery, I have to visit her grave, speak to her and say, اغفري لي, and do charity and whatnot on behalf of her. يقول أنا يعني مرت مشاهد من حياتي، وإذا أكو واحد ميت في هذه القصص أنا ألتقي به، وكلهم ما راضين. وأنا ليلة أمس قلت ليش دول ما يرضون؟ لأن هم يعيشون حالات مأساوية بعضهم، فيريدون يتخلصون من ذنوبهم من خلال أخذ الحسنات من هذا الشخص أو إلقاء ما عندهم من الذنوب عليه. الناس عادة ما ترضى. أنت جرب شيل غيبة فد واحد، بعدين روح قول له شلت غيبتك. ناس ما ترضى، ما تقبل. الله غفار، الله رحيم، بس الناس ما ترضى. شو تسوي لهم؟ شو تسوي لهم؟ يقول إلى أن رحنا قمنا نمر على مشاهد أخرى. I was able to see the suffering of other people. He said the first group of people that I saw, أنا هاي مهم أذكرها، هاي مو نسج الخيال، لأنه أنا مشتغل على روايات عالم الآخرة، فلما أسمع هذه القصص وأرى الدليل عليه من القرآن أو من روايات أهل البيت أنا أذكر، ولا هم يذكرون قصصهم كذا، بعض الأمور ما ترتبط يعني بالمنبر. يقول the first group of people that I saw was people that had huge bellies. They looked horrible. They had red eyes, and they couldn't speak properly. They make strange sounds, like the sounds of pigs. That's how he describes it. Very huge bellies. They couldn't walk properly, and I could see that their graves was filled with fire. I could see the redness of the fire inside the graves. They go inside the fire, and then they come out again. I understood that these people took usury, riba. This is what they used to. This is what they did for a living. Their job was to take riba, usury, interest. So he said it was so horrible that when I saw them, it's as if I can absorb their suffering. And their odor was so bad that now that I remember the odor, I feel like vomiting. Na'udhu billah. When I listened to the story, I went to our hadith collection and started reading the riwayat, the narrations about riba. The Prophet says that when I went to the seventh heaven, I came across a group of people, and he gives the same description. The hadith says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fills the stomach of a person that takes usury with fire. This is why they have big bellies. And then the hadith says they are like Al-Fir'aun. يُعْرَضُونَ عَلَيْهَا. They are subjected to fire every morning and every night. And when they die, يَتَخَبَّطُهُ الشَّيْطَانِ, as the verse says, as if that person is drunk. This is why they're making these sounds. Yani the exact description of the hadith. This is what he saw. He said, I also came across a group of people that were standing like this, extending their neck. I was told that these are the people that committed suicide. He said they remained in a state of limbo. They were not dead and they were not alive. They were just wailing, crying, begging. And I could see the redness on their neck. People that hanged themselves. And I saw young girls that had committed suicide by cutting their veins. I didn't see the blood, but I can see the wounds. And they were walking in bewilderment. And then he said that I came across a group of people, women, that cheated on their husbands. Again, the description that he gives is horrible. يقول مريت على الفئة الأولى من الناس رجال بطونهم ممتلئة مثل وصف الروايات. فيقول أنا أخبرت أنه هذول كانوا يتعاطون الربا يأكلون الربا. عندنا في الحديث بمقدار ما أكلوا من الربا الله يملأ بطونهم نارا. يقول يطلعون أصوات الخنازير. اللي هاي الآية القرآنية الإمام يستشهد بيها. يقول ذولا كما يتخبطه الشيطان من المس. كأنه سكران. لهذا يقول حكيته ما كان مفهوم. يقول يدخلون في قبورهم بها نار. اللي هاي آية قرآنية هم الإمام يستشهد بيها. يقول مثل آل فرعون ذولا يعرضون على النار كل نهار وكل ليل. يعني نفس الوصف اللي دي يعطيه. ومر على جماعة يقول ذولا قيل لي أنهم المنتحرون. ذولا منتحرين فهشكل واقفين مادين رقابهم واكو آثار الانتحار. أو ذول اللي مقطعين أياديهم حتى ينزفون إلى الموت. يقول قاعد أشوف أنا الدم ما أشوفه بس أشوف الجروح مالهم. يقول يئنون يونون في حالة مزرية. هو يقول أنا مو بس أشوف، أنا الشيء اللي أشوفه أشعر به. حالاتهم كأنه أنا أستشعر بها. ولذلك كانت حالة جدا مأساوية. يقول لما مريت على ذوله وشفت وضعهم فد مرة ناديت من أعماق نفسي. يقول when I saw these scenes I called out يا الله. هذا الرجل كان مضيع الله في حياته. لا كان متدين، لا كان يؤمن بشيء، مضيع نفسه، مضيع الله. ولذلك هناك لما شاف هذا الوضع قال يقول بمجرد أن قلت يا الله. يعني تارة نقول يا الله يا الله يا الله، تارة لا صدق ده ترتبط بالله. تريد تستحضر رب العالمين في حياتك، تريد تراقب رب العالمين في كل حركة وسكون وقيام وقعود. Sometimes you say يا الله, sometimes you mean it. Sometimes you try to establish the link between yourself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's very different. يقول بس قلت يا الله هاي المخاوف اللي كانت عندي والمشاعر السلبية التي انتابتني كلها انزاحت. يقول the moment I said يا الله suddenly I felt at peace. The horrible feelings that I was harboring was removed from my heart. When this happened, suddenly I saw myself in a different world. Someone came close to me. I thought maybe he's the angel of death. Maybe he wasn't the angel of death because it's not always the angel of death that extracts the soul. Sometimes it's an angel, another angel, and not the angel of death. As if he was wearing something on his face. I can only see his eyes and he had red eyes. He gives a description of what he saw. So he comes up to me and he removes like a curtain that was on my face. I see him. He says to me, your time hasn't come yet. You have another chance. Then he places the curtain on my face. Suddenly I find myself in the hospital atmosphere. But I'm still not in my body. He said, I see the people in the ICU unit. The guy on my right, I see that his soul is departing the body. طبعا what he describes, he said he was happy, he was laughing as he was about to leave the body. And we have a hadith about when a mu'min departs this world, he is given the choice of leaving. When they show him the hereafter, he says, I don't want to stay. This is a hellhole compared to the Jannah. So he said that he was departing his soul, and while he was laughing, and the guy on my left was also smiling, laughing, and the angel of death was taking both of them. And I saw a young girl who was also hospitalized on life support. I saw that her soul is also departing the body. So the interviewer asks him, he says, the soul, the body, can you, what's the resemblance? He says, yes, the soul is exactly like the body, and this correlates with our ahadith. The reason why you recognize the people after you die, you recognize your late father, your late mother, is because their soul resembles the body. Yes, it's made from a different material, it's made from wind, but it looks like the facial features, the hands, the legs, it's exactly like the body. This is how you recognize them. He said, then suddenly my soul returned to my body. He said, I opened my eyes, but I couldn't speak. I couldn't talk. And I heard the nurses saying that he regained consciousness. He's back, he's back. He couldn't speak, but he said, I peeked at my right side. I saw that guy who was still alive, but on life support. He was still alive, but I knew that he's going to die. I looked to my left. I saw that guy again. I knew that he was going to die. And then the girl that was on another bed, I knew that she was going to die. And I knew when their death will come. So when I was able to speak, I said, he's dying. He's also dying. That girl is also dying. So a nurse comes, she says, calm down. What do you mean dying? That girl is with her mother. He said, I saw her soul leaving the body. خلاص, he's dying. يقول أنا لما رجعت إلى أجواء المستشفى وشفت نفسي وكذا، شفت اللي نايمين يمي، شفت أرواحهم قاعد تخرج من أبدانهم، وشفت امرأة شابة من روحها قاعد تخرج من بدنها. بعدين لما روحي رجعت إلى بدني شفتهم موجودين، بس بعد ما قاعد أشوف الروح وذلك العالم وكذا. فيقول لما قدرت أتكلم قلت هذا راح يموت، هذا هم راح يموت، ذيك هم راح تموت. يقول بصوت عالي قلت، فأجتي الممرضة قالت شو دا تقول؟ عم ينزل صوتك، ذول أهاليهم وياهم. قال أنا شفت هاي بعد 3 ساعات راح تموت، هاي هم راح يموت وهاي هم راح يموت. يقول سبحان الله، ثلاثتهم هم ماتوا لأنه انكشف له ذلك العالم. إخواني، هذه حقائق سواء أنكرناها لم نؤمن بها آمنا بها. هذه حقيقة من الحقائق أننا مقبلين على عالم آخر. فإذا شوية نعدل وضعنا. Sometimes we have to make minor adjustments to our lives so that we would secure an eternal bliss for ourselves. أحيانا تغييرات بسيطة، بس لازم نكون أولا على حذر، ونعرف أنه إحنا بالنتيجة كل كلمة نقولها، كل فعل، كل موقف نؤاخذ به. فخلي تكون أفعالنا وأعمالنا منسجمة مع ما نعتقد به. الله سبحانه وتعالى أتم الحجة علينا. أنت تشوف ليش دول لما يروحون يشوفون لما يرجعون يتغيرون. رب يرجعون حتى إذا جاء أحدهم الموت قال رب يرجعون. The moment you see the afterlife, you will ask for another chance. If I come back, I will behave differently. كلا إنها كلمة. Another verse says, the people that are punished, that are burning in fire, they say, take us out so that we behave differently. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them? He says, أَوَلَمْ نُعَمِّرْكُمْ فِيهِ مَا يَتَذَكَّرُ مَنْ تَذَكَّرُ. Didn't we give you enough time to remember, to be cognizant of these facts? وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمُ النَّذِيرُ. Who is the Nadhir? The Prophet. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم. ليه؟ تنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم. ينذرك ترى أكو حساب، أكو عقاب، أكو كذا. والله تم الحجة علينا. يقتل الإمام الحسين حتى إحنا نعرف دربنا وطريقنا وكذا. ليلة الجمعة شهر رمضان. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله، صلى الله عليك يا ابن يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين. اقصد حسينا وزره ليلة الجمعة، فتحت قبتك الأملاك مجتمعة. هنيئا لزوار الحسين، جعلنا منهم. وعنده المصطفى والأنبياء معه، والمرتضى حيدر بالحزن وافاه. انظر بقلبك تبصر فاطمة الزهراء تعدوه وقد نسيت في ضلعها كسرا، حتى إليه أتت لم تحتمل صبراه، أهوت إليه تنادي وحسيناه. لهفي عليها تنادي يا ولدي، من ذاك فرق بين الراس والجسد. ها جئت أرويح غلة الكبد، لكنها انتثرت بالسهم ويلاه. من مايات مثلك بالأحجار والنبل وبالعصي وطعن الظهر والنصل، ورضرضوا صدره العطشان بالخيل. فما لرزئك بالأرزاق أشباه، بين البتولة تبكي إذ أتت زينب، بين البتولة تبكي إذ أتت زينب يا زينب. صاحت حبيبي وضجت بالأسى تنحيب، شاء الزمان بصوت الشمر أن أضرب، وأن نساق إلى الطاغي سباياه. وأنا الأميرة هل أسباه إلى القصر، أنا العقيلة أنا العزيزة هل أغدو بلا خدري، أخت الكفيل وتحدوني يد الشمر. أخي بعدك كالرز جرعناه، اجيتك يا بعد روحي وحياتي، وتعثر قمت من مستحاتي. يم
مدللني ومدلل خواتي، يا مدللني ومدلل خواتي، أخاف من أقع توقع عبرتي. أولي لو أن نجمع مصايبكم ولمها ما يوصل حزن زينب، حزن زينب وألمها غريبة للأخو يمها ولمها يا ولا إخوة أسيرة آل أمية. ليلة الجمعة نريد ون منكم يا ولا إخوة أسيرة يا لمي يا لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. استجب به دعانا، اشف به مرضانا، به فرج عنا كل سوء وغصة ونكد وعلة وبلاء، به اشف أمراضنا ومرضانا لا سيما المريض المنظور، به وفقنا لزيارة الحسين في القريب العاجل وارزقنا شفاعته في الآجل يا أرحم الراحمين، به حصن شبابنا من كل سوء وذنب، به ارض عنا يا أرحم الراحمين. وإلى أرواح أموات من مضى لا سيما أموات هذا الجمع، رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
أحسنتم سيدنا، طيب الله أنفاسكم. إن شاء الله أخوان بعد الزيارة راح يكون جلسة مع سماحة السيد للشباب إن شاء الله، وموضوعهم عن ليالي القدر إن شاء الله مع الزيارة إن شاء الله.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله، الصلاة والسلام عليك يا مولاي يا أمير المؤمنين ويعسوب الدين وإمام المتقين علي بن أبي طالب ورحمة الله وبركاته. الصلاة والسلام على سيدتي ومولاتي الصديقة الطاهرة الشهيدة المظلومة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين ورحمة الله وبركاته. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا مولاي يا أبا محمد الحسن المجتبى ورحمة الله وبركاته. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك وأناخت برحلك، عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت، وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. الصلاة والسلام عليكم أئمة الهدى علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد الجواد وعلي الهادي والحسن العسكري والحجة القائم المهدي صاحب العصر والزمان وشريك القرآن وإمام الإنس والجان، عجل الله تعالى فرجه وسهل الله تعالى مخرجه وظهوره. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين. اللهم بلغ أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والشهداء أموات الحضور، رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. جزاكم الله خير، الله يتقبل إن شاء الله أجورين.
And secondly, the topic of tonight's Q&A is Laylatul Qadr. But I don't want to bore you with another lecture. I just gave a 50-minute speech. But because tomorrow night is the first night of the 3 Layali al-Qadr, I just want to give a 5-minute talk about the importance of preparing ourselves for this big moment. From the beginning of Rajab, there is a dua. It's mustahab to recite, Allahumma, oh God, help me in benefiting from the month of Rajab and Sha'ban, وَبَلِّغْنَا شَهْرَ Ramadan. So your eyes is set on the month of Ramadan. And the highlight of the month of Ramadan is Laylatul Qadr. So all the ibadat, everything that we did, everything is for Laylatul Qadr. And we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we have been given the knowledge, the understanding about Laylatul Qadr. The majority of people in the world today don't know that there is a Laylatul Qadr. That Laylatul Qadr exists. And this was only given to us, the nation of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Otherwise, previous nations, the Israelites, Christians during the time of Jesus, and all the other prophets during their time, they didn't know about the month of Ramadan. The month of Ramadan was a special season, a season of blessings and God's mercy, but only the prophets made use of the month of Ramadan. When our prophet was sent, this became public knowledge. Everyone now knows that the month of Ramadan is a special month. So we have to be thankful. And being thankful is not just to appreciate that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you this, but to make the most of Laylatul Qadr. It's a decisive night. Usually people ask about the actual Laylatul Qadr. There's a hadith that says that the destiny is finalized gradually. So the first night, the taqdeer happens, like a sketchy idea of what will happen to you. And then the second Laylatul Qadr, it's determined, and then the third Laylatul Qadr, it's finalized. Once it's finalized, khalas. And you will be living according to the plan that was drawn for you during the third Laylatul Qadr. Of course, we have a hadith about how the third Laylatul Qadr is the most important one, but the Ahl Bayt alayhim salam were discreet about the actual Laylatul Qadr, even though they knew, because the hadith says that the angel comes down on the imams, on the prophet and his successors, but they were never explicit about the actual date. Why? Because people say it's like how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has concealed the time of our death. We don't know when. Because if we knew that, for example, I'll die in 60 years' time, I will lead a playful life until I'm like 59, and then the final year I would try to become, religious and whatnot. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not inform us about our death time so that we are always careful. I might die when I'm young, who knows? So the same reason why Laylatul Qadr is hidden from us is so that we are always God conscious during the month of Ramadan, mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, strengthening our spirituality, trying to, attain spirituality, do dua, because God knows maybe Laylatul Qadr, because the Imams didn't specify the actual night, could be tonight, could be tomorrow night, could be the day after. And you don't want to be not engaged in a supplication or dua or mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when these things are finalized, because it's about your fate, it's about your life, it's about your sustenance, it's about your livelihood, it's about your health, it's about your wealth, it's about everything that has to do with you, everything. You recite Surah Al-Qadr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر. كل is a letter in the Arabic language, or a word in the Arabic language that is all encompassing. Kul, everything. Amr is again another word that refers to, can refer to anything. هذا الأمر could be a reference to time, to a thing, to an item, to an object, anything. You could say amr. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses these two words together. Min kulli amr. Everything about your life shall be finalized during Laylatul Qadr. It's a very good question, and it's a smart question. There's a hadith that says Laylatul Qadr is 24 hours. Back then they had hours as well, 24 hours. And there's a hadith that says صبيحتها كليلتها. And after sunrise, you still are living Laylatul Qadr. It's still Laylatul Qadr. Maybe because back then in the Middle East, after sunrise, you have people living in Europe, it's still nighttime for them. So it's still Laylatul Qadr. But some people say that when the sun rises, that's when your destiny has been finalized. But for them, it's when their sunrise, when it's sunrise for them. Yeah, but it has to do with the people, right? So your destiny will be finalized during sunrise, wherever you live, yeah, according to your local time. But there's a hadith that says that the epicenter of the world is Kaaba. وَدُحِيَتِ الْأَرْض مِنْ تَحْتِ الْكَعْبَةِ. So it's according to the Kaaba. Once the sun rises, the hadith says that the angels will ascend, make the ascension back to the heavens, and that's when Laylatul Qadr is finalized. We don't know. I had a theory that it could be, it could be different because it has to do with the Imam, because the angels come down on the Imam. But according to the hadith, the hadith are not very clear, obviously because it's a big secret, but I think the majority of ulama understand that it's just one night that is. No, the hadith says اطلبها في العشر الأواخر. Seek Laylatul Qadr during the last 10 days of the month of Ramadan. So it could be in these, the 21st or the 23rd. But these 10 nights are special. For example, the 27th of the month of Ramadan, the Sunnis, they observe Laylatul Qadr on the 27th. For us, it's not it's not Laylatul Qadr, but it's a special night. As we approach the end of the month of Ramadan, that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down his mercy upon the people. The hadith says that from the beginning of the month of Ramadan until the end, every night Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives millions of people, right? And then during the last night of the month of Ramadan, he forgives more than the people that he forgave during the entire month. So it makes the last night the most important night. It's not the most important night, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to forgive, and this is the last chance that the people have. I don't know if you're asking about the names of the Imams. Like for example, during Imam Sadiq's time, did people do Raf' al-Masahif and then mention the Imams after Imam Sadiq and all the way to Imam al-Mahdi or not? Look, back then, the Imams couldn't speak freely. It was difficult, but we have a'mal in which you mention the names of all the Imams. For example, in Ziyarat Sayyid al-Ma'suma, it was narrated by Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. During the time of our 8th Imam, you salute all the Imams. You mention the names of the Imams after Imam al-Rida, Imam al-Jawad, Imam al-Hadi, Imam al-Askari, and Imam al-Mahdi. So their names were mentioned during the time of Fatima al-Zahra. Jabir ibn Abdullah, he says, I went and I met with Fatima al-Zahra, and she had a sahifa with all the names of all the Imams. So this was determined from day one. But whether people knew these a'mal or not, I don't know, but I guess before the time of Imam Rida it was difficult. The Imams couldn't speak freely, they couldn't divulge these information. But I guess يعني, they had people that they confided to, like close companions of the Imams. They used to tell them. But these are hadith. يعني. The main a'mal that we usually perform is رفع المصاحف, putting the Quran on our heads, and ziyarat al-Imam al-Hussein, very important. And what else? The 2 raka'at, which is the 2 raka'at with seven times قل هو الله أحد, and dua joshan. Some people they recite it on all nights. No, the thing is, you have a say here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you a chance to kind of make amendments to what will be decreed upon you. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has His own plan for us. It doesn't mean that if you're a sinner, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish you. And after Laylatul Qadr, it decrees that He will punish you. But the hadith says, "Man as'ada ila Allah, khalis ibadatihi." If you're sincere in your ibadah, anzal Allah ilayhi afdala maslahatih. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will choose what's best for you. This is why we're encouraged to pray and to beseech Allah and ask Him. And through your du'as, Allah can, change certain things about the future.
This whole power throughout the month, we kind of give it our full blast on the end. You know what I mean? I don't know how sincere that is. You know where I'm coming from?
Well, I think if you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wholeheartedly and you are sincere, you say, "Oh God, I regret the fact that I didn't perform my duty throughout the year. I was a sinner, I did this, I did that." You confess to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But now that we only have few hours remaining until Laylatul Qadr, so please, Ya Allah, help me. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful. I mean, Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, he was a tyrant. He was a tyrant, not just a follower of a tyrant. But just a few moments before his death, he asked for forgiveness, Allah subhanahu. The hadith says this. The hadith says that even before you make the final blink, before you make the last breath in your life, if you sincerely repent, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives you. However, the thing is, you might not have the chance. Either because your life is cut short before you repent, or that you disbelieve in these things. Why should I repent? Because sins, this is what one of the effects of sins on a person, is that you start disbelieving in God. Yeah, Hassan. Yeah. Absolutely. Hassan. Sure. Have fun. They're sisters. Jazakallah.
السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
نحن نعرف إنه ليلة القدر هي خاصة بفاطمة الزهراء، وإن الملائكة دايما بتكون متواجدة بهاي الليالي. فشنو اللي يرضي فاطمة الزهراء في هاي الليالي اللي يغير من حياة الإنسان؟ تعرف الإنسان هالقد إنه مشغول بحياته الدنيا، من عمل، من مثلا أولاد داخل البيت، فهيكون في تعب على أي شخص مثلا بالليل إنه يقوم بهاي الأعمال. شو أهم الأعمال اللي تساعد إنه تغير هذا الشخص وتكسب رضا فاطمة الزهراء ورضا أهل البيت ورب العالمين؟
نعم. تحبون الجواب يكون بالإنجليزي أم بالعربي؟
Inshallah, if you can just give a translation and then the answer in English, please.
Okay. Inshallah. Yeah. Inshallah, yes. So Laylatul Qadr is associated with Fatima al-Zahra, according to our narrations. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatin mubarakah. The hadith says the blessed night is Fatima al-Zahra. There's a hadith that says man adraka anyone that knows Fatima al-Zahra faqad adraka laylat al-Qadr. I think this is one of the secrets. Yani we don't know what the Imams are trying to say and whether we have a duty towards Fatima al-Zahra during Laylatul Qadr. Perhaps, I'm just giving the answer in English, and I'll give you the answer in English and then translate it. Perhaps the secret is that Fatima al-Zahra, because she's the soul of the Prophet said, Fatima ruhi allati bayna janbay. And he received revelation from God. He received the Quran. So Fatima was the heart or the hub that received the Quran. What this means, I don't know. But we know Fatima al-Zahra plays an instrumental role in the kingdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His dominion. And there is this correlation between the Quran, Fatima al-Zahra, between the angels descending and Fatima al-Zahra. What this is, we don't know. But being aware of this is insightful. It's important because we have to try to know the Ahlul Bayt alayhim. So of course, we won't be able to fully understand their personalities, but the things that are mentioned in the hadith. The second question was about being busy during the day and not having the time to do the a'mal at night. What do we need to do? My answer is it's just one night. Even if a man comes to the Imam, he says to him, we don't know which night is Laylatul Qadr. You know how when there is a dispute about the beginning of the month, sometimes some people say it's Laylatul Qadr. Some people say no, it's tomorrow's Laylatul Qadr. We're not sure. Alhamdulillah, this year all the Shi'as are united. All the Shi'as are united. United about the first day of the month of Ramadan and the Eid, inshallah. So this is a great blessing, alhamdulillah. Otherwise, when there is a dispute about the first day of the month of Ramadan, I've seen a lot of people that usually do the a'mal twice. Yani they observe Laylatul Qadr how many times? 6 times. They do all the a'mal, Jawshan Kabir. Some people even do the 100 rak'ah, which is mustahab to be performed on Laylatul Qadr. But it's just one night. So he comes to the Imam, he says, what if there is a dispute? He says, it's just 2 nights. 2 nights. And then the Imam says, what you're seeking is significant. This is why staying awake or, trying to, read all the du'as becomes easy. Because it's just one night. They say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, back in the day, people used to live for centuries. Nuh, for example, he was 1,950 years old when he died, right? So a prophet was told, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him that during the end of times, people will only live for 70 years. He said, what? Just 70 years? If I witnessed that era, I would spend the whole time just prostrating for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And 70 years in one sujood for Allah. Because they used to live for 2,000 years, right? If I'm just living, you know how they say flies? A fly only lives a day or 2. Imagine they tell you that you become a fly. Say, just 1 day or 2 days, I'll spend the whole time worshiping Allah. It's just a day or 2. For them, for a fly, they reproduce, they get married, they enjoy life, they do all the things that they do. It's their entire lifespan. But for us, it's a day and a half. So Laylatul Qadr or Laylatul Qadr, just 3 nights. Try to make the most of it. We have a hadith that says Fatima al-Zahra, every Thursday night, she wanted to stay awake to pray. So what she used to do is she used to put her kids to sleep during the day so that they would stay awake at night. Rest during the day so you could stay awake at night. And Fatima al-Zahra, she could have observed Laylatul Jum'ah alone, but she wanted Imam al-Hassan, Imam al-Hussein, Lady Zainab, maybe not to pray, because the Imam al-Sadiq says that my father used to come and wake us up in the middle of the night. If we know how to pray, he would tell us to take wudu and pray. If we didn't know, if we were too small, he would just give us prayer beads and tell us to do tasbih and tahleel. And even the kids, they should get involved in dua and prayer. فعفوا ما إن شاء الله يعني تكتفون بالترجمة الإنجليزية، إذا لا حتى أتكلم بالعربية. No answer? أحسنتم، جزاكم الله خير. Sure. The mic, please, yeah.
Okay, now it's working. Okay, sometimes we feel it's more spiritual, or we get better connection when we do the amal alone at home. And sometimes being with the children, being at mosque, then we don't have that connection and that spirituality when we do it with a group. So we feel more connected when we do it alone. But is it better to do it at the Husseiniya, at the mosque, with people, even though maybe you don't concentrate as much as you would at home doing it alone? So can you just please reflect on that? Because sometimes we feel guilty that we're not connecting very well at mosque, and then, we stay home, but then we miss out on being with everybody.
My advice is to do some of the a'mal at the mosque and then do the rest at home. Because there's a hadith that says when you pray collectively, more than 40 people come together and pray, their prayer is accepted. This is why it's encouraged. We're encouraged to be together. The angels descend, especially if it's a mosque. It has the spiritual atmosphere. So I would suggest that doing some of the a'mal in the mosque, and then the rest of the a'mal you do them at home. I understand when you're alone, when you're comfortable at home, it would be more convenient, easier, and sometimes even spiritually you feel that connection. But doing it in the mosque is also can also be beneficial. Yeah, it's like how when you hold a majlis and then you mention the tragedy of Imam al-Hussein, when you have 2-3 people crying, this would help you cry as well. So sometimes when you're reciting a dua, the atmosphere is also beneficial. One doesn't have to be about Laylatul Qadr if you have.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
This is a question related to the lecture. Why was the man in the story shown scenarios that didn't relate to his life? Like, for example, why was he able to see moments from his father's life in the battlefield? And also, why did he see punishments for things that didn't apply to him, like people who committed suicide?
I once saw an interview with a doctor. He was saying that, I think he was a neurosurgeon or a neurologist. He said that sometimes due to medical reasons, a person can start to hallucinate or imagine things. But when what they see correlates with what was happening on the ground, this is not something that as scientists or as the medical community can understand. This shows that there's something beyond this world that we can sense and feel. There's something outside the parameters of the physical existence. So I thought maybe he was shown scenes from his father's life in the battlefield so that he can validate what he saw and realize that what he saw is true. Because he went to his father and he told his father, he said, this is exactly what happened. Yeah, maybe this is the reason. And also because I thought maybe he was shown, sinners, other people and their sufferings, maybe because he wasn't religious at all. And he says this in the interview. He said, I didn't even believe in the imams. I used to say that, they were people that lived in the past. They have nothing to do with us. And he wasn't religious at all. And he didn't know anything about religion. So he saw these things so that he understands that, it's not just him. It's the punishment, the law of punishment is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has enacted. It's part of the authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also so that he would come and tell other people, and people like me would go and search the ahadith regarding riba and see the correlation. And sometimes I think that these people are given another chance so that they would come and tell their stories. It's very interesting. And subhanallah, when they started this TV show, I think 4 years ago in Iran, they had a few people that approached them, and they told them that we have stories, or we have family members that have experienced the life after death. But zindagi pas az zindagi, life after life. So he said, so after that, they had hundreds of people, all the people that have experienced this. And when they uploaded these videos on different platforms like YouTube, you could read the comments of people that have nothing to do with religion. They would say, look, we don't care about the religious side of things. We don't care about the politics. We don't care about anything. What these people are saying, because we've been through this. And it's a phenomenon. Yeah.
Thank you so much. There's another question.
Sure.
Why was he shown a bad action that he did when he was 10 years old? This was done before he was baligh, so shouldn't that mean he doesn't get accounted or punished for it?
Smart question. Okay, so even if you're a child and you do something and you inflict harm on someone, you damage someone's property, they say that the parent's duty is to take money from that child and either replace that object that was damaged, or this is a debt that the child needs to pay. If he has the money, the father takes the money and gives it to that person that he wronged. And if he doesn't have money, it's the duty of the father. But in this story, it's something that he did, but then he grew up, and it's his duty, his responsibility. Even though he wasn't baligh back then, because he grew up, it's his responsibility to basically either please the auntie or seek forgiveness from her, or give her money in exchange for what he damaged.
But does that also apply to before they baligh, if they did haram?
No, because haram doesn't really apply to them. And for example, if a child eats something that is haram, right? It doesn't apply to them. Yes, I can't facilitate the child eating something haram, for example, pork. But if the child did it, it was a child, khalas. But damaging other people's properties, when it's something that has to do with other people, no, you have to, especially regarding inflicting damage upon other people. Yes, when you reach puberty, you have a responsibility.
Thank you so much.
Allah bless you. Habib.
One of the a'mal of Laylat al-Qadr is the meet rak'ah.
Yeah.
Can those meet rak'ah compensate for missed salahs, previous missed salah?
No, that's another thing. So there is a hadith that says that there is a amal, if you perform it, then you can, it would make up for the missed salawat in your life. So the way the scholars explain this is that there is a hadith, but it could mean that when you missed your salat intentionally, you've sinned, and you should be punished for it. But if you do this salat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not punish you, but you still have to make up for the qada salawat that you missed. Yeah. But what some people do during Laylatul Qadr, they don't want to do the mustahab prayer. What they do is instead they make the intention of praying, making up for the missed salawat that they, the salawat that they've missed in their life. So instead of praying 2 rak'at, they pray 2 rak'at for Salat al-Fajr, and then they pray 4 rak'at for Salat al-Dhuhr, Salat al-Asr, Salat al-Maghrib, Salat al-Isha. And they do 100 rak'at like this. Some say that with mustahabbat, for example, Imam al-Ridha, this is how he used to pray Salatul Layl. He says that I would merge Salatul Layl with Salat Ja'far al-Tayyar. He would merge them together. You know, Salat Ja'far al-Tayyar, 2 rak'at with the tasbih. And if you can't do the tasbih and the salat, you do the tasbih afterwards. You say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar 300 times. So you merge it with Salatul. With mustahabbat, you can do a merger. So you do a ghusl, and instead of doing one ghusl, one mustahab ghusl, for example, you go to Hajj, you want to wear the ihram, you do ghusl al-tawbah, you do ghusl al-ihram, you do ghusl entering Mecca, you do like 300 ghusls together. So sometimes you can do the merger, but with salawat al-wajiba, no. I think it's different, but as long as you're praying, I think it's highly recommended, because the Prophet says, عملكم فيه مقبول. Maybe after the month of Ramadan you pray and you're not paying attention, it's not accepted, because one of the requirements is to pay attention to the amal. It's valid, but acceptance is different. But during the month of Ramadan, every good deed that you carry out is accepted. And that's one of the perks of Salat al-Qadha, because it's wajib. Yes, you need to do it because you would be held accountable for not praying salawat al-wajib. So now that you have the chance to pray, might as well do the qada of these wajibat prayers. Any question?
For help. Khidr alayhi salam is still alive, right? Why did he not answer the call and came for his aid?
First of all, the call was for the people that were present there. The people that were present in Karbala. Anyone that heard man sami'a. Some people used to come, and the Imam used to meet some people, and he would tell them that, look, if you don't want to support us, don't be in the vicinity of the battle. Because if you hear my call and not respond to me, أكبه الله على منخريه في نار جهنم. You would be thrown face first into the inferno. So Khidr, maybe he wasn't present in Karbala. Khidr, no. Khidr has another duty. Khidr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a long life so that he would give company to Imam al-Mahdi Ajjallah ta'ala farajahu al-sharif. So he wasn't supposed to, be killed in Karbala.
I don't know if I'm correct here, but they say that Dua Kumail is given from Khidr to Imam Ali alayhi salam, صح?
Yes, originally. Inshallah, I'll speak about this one night.
But Imam Ali salam is greater than Khidr, so why would he teach him?
One of the things that the prophets in general, the Imams do, is they revive the heritage of previous prophets as well. For example, Imam Sadiq says that Isa said this to his disciples. Imam Sadiq himself is more knowledgeable than Isa. Why should you mention a hadith? But one of their jobs was to revive the heritage of previous prophets. Because they all belong to the same line of ancestry. They all belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they all have the divine knowledge.
They're last one is, as I wrote here, if, for example, the coming of Imam Zaman alayhi salam and Nabi Isa alayhi salam is a sign of Yawm al-Qiyamah, so how does Raja play a role? Because in Raja we believe all the Imams will come back.
Hamdulillah. No, so the hadith says, لو لم يبق من الدنيا, if we only had one day left until the day of judgment, لطول الله, it's a Sunni hadith, لطول الله ذلك اليوم, Allah would prolong that day so that Imam al-Mahdi reappears. So Imam al-Mahdi's reappearance is a must. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made a promise, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُخْلِفُ الْمِيعَادِ. With respect to punishment, for example, if God makes a promise to punish someone, Allah can retrieve. He can basically say, I won't punish that guy because this is a punishment. But with Imam al-Mahdi, it's from the mi'ad. The hadith says, Wallahu la yukhlifu al-mi'ad. It's a must. But this hadith is just saying that if we only had one day, Imam al-Mahdi had to reappear. Otherwise, with Raj'ah, again, it's one of the pillars of the Shia faith. من لم يؤمن برجعتنا بكرتنا فليس منا. We have numerous hadith regarding Raj'ah.
But I mean, as long as there's a hujjah on this earth, the earth will remain. So if the last of the Imams would die again, wouldn't we know then that Yawm al-Qiyamah is close?
With the Raj'ah or without the Raj'ah? Because with the Raj'ah, we have another Imam.
Yeah.
We have.
All of them again, no?
Yes.
But how often will this repeat itself? Just once?
Just once. The hadith says that until the last Imam dies, for 40 days, the earth would remain without a hujjah. And the hadith describes what will happen. It's like doomsday, but before the day of judgment.
Because shaitan is still present till Yawm al-Qiyamah. So even if the Imams alayhi salam are in power.
No, the shaitan, according to our narrations, a fierce battle will take place between Imam Ali alayhi salam and all the mu'mineen against the shaitan and all his soldiers. And then the Prophet would come. It said the hadith is a very long hadith mentioned in Bihar al-Anwar. The Prophet would descend down. That's when the Prophet would strike a spear in the back of the shaitan and he will kill him.
So there's no shaitan.
Shaitan, yes, will be eliminated.
But then, also last question, sorry.
Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what He told him. He said, إِلَى يَوْمِ الْوَقْتِ الْمَعْلُومِ. He asked God to stay alive until the day of judgment. He said, no. إِلَى يَوْمِ الْوَقْتِ الْمَعْلُومِ. You have a day that will come where you will be eliminated.
That's how we understand it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I heard different opinions regarding this. So last thing is, during the time, the period, the cavity of time that we have from Nabi Isa alayhi salam until Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi, there should have been a hujjah, no? There always has to be a hujjah. Who are the hujjaj, like the hujjah on?
Yeah, they call this period the Fatra. Apparently, the prophets or the vicegerents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during this period of time were in occultation. People didn't know them. We have a hadith about some people being the successors of Jesus during that time. For example, one hadith, Imam Ali says that my father was the last successor of Jesus, Abu Talib. But we don't know whether the Imam says Abi or Abi. So we have a narration about a woman visiting the Prophet, and then the Prophet says that she is the daughter of Handala, which is a prophet of God. But we're not sure, but we know that earth should not be void of a hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Some say also maybe Abdul Muttalib alayhi salam or Abu Talib
We're prophets. Yeah, some people say that all the forefathers of Rasulullah were prophets. Some say this, but we have different types of prophets. And a prophet could be a good person that sees dreams. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends His revelation, but He's not sent to anyone. He's not tasked to convey a message to anyone. Normal prophets, basically. As long as there is someone that represents God, that was enough. Yeah.
Do the sisters have any questions?
Okay. One of the sisters are asking, let's say a child reaches the age of bulugh. They know how to tell right from wrong, but they are still too immature to make decisions for themselves. Are they still held accountable for their actions?
So there is a beautiful hadith that says, إنما يداق العباد على قدر ما أوتوا من العقول. So God's judgment is based on how much they understand. And you have people that are a little bit, their mental capacity doesn't allow them to understand certain things. The Quran says, لكن ما تعمدت قلوبكم. And if you intentionally, if you carry out a sinister act, intentionally with a cold blood while understanding this is haram, this is wrong, this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold you accountable. Otherwise, if you lack the understanding and you did something, you'll not be held accountable. For example, the hadith says that animals have been given a very basic understanding of right and wrong. This is why the hadith says that two goats will be brought on the day of judgment. One was with horns and the other doesn't have horns. During their life in this world, one of the goats had horns and attacked the other goat. Allah will bring them, will give the other one horns, and will take away the horns from that goat that had horns in this lifetime, and will give the chance for the victim to attack. Yeah, so if they have this basic understanding, they will be held accountable. But sometimes you might say that someone is raised in a different environment. They don't know many of the things that we regard as bad, haram. They don't know this. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Hamd, you say, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. Maghdoub alayhim are the ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry with. These are the people that intentionally deviate. They just want to follow their desires. Al-Dhalleen are the people that don't know. They did not find the truth. That's different. These people, their responsibility is search for the truth. Of course, if they had access to the truth. Otherwise, they will be tested again on the day of judgment. And if they had no access to the truth, they didn't know, couldn't differentiate between right and wrong, between truth and falsehood, they will be tested again. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not punish a person that is not aware of his actions, didn't know that this was bad. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the pillars of our faith is to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just. Not just just, He is Arhamur Rahimin as well. But I think everyone understands that you shouldn't do harm to other people. And even if you're not, if you're an atheist, you don't believe in anything, this is a basic understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has dispositioned in each and every one of us as part of the fitrah. Dhulm is bad. Yeah. And I think these things that this guy saw with respect to him, mistreating his customers, these are things that, everyone can relate to, whether you're a Muslim or a non-Muslim. And he was a crook, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed him that what he did, he has to face the consequences of his actions and deeds. You have a question?
جزاكم الله خيرا.
وجزاكم.
Thank you, Shaykhna, for joining us tonight and seeking us with your knowledge. Inshallah, if anyone has any last questions? Nobody? Okay.
Sayyidina, afwan. One last question about shak and salat, Sometimes, we keep doing shak and then, there's these turbos with the counters on them that help you to keep in track. Is it makruh or something to pray on them? Do they distract you from salat or something? But sometimes you just don't have any other means to continue your salat until you depend on something that will make you feel sure that you're not doing it wrong.
See, in general, waswas is a disease. Sometimes the shaitan, he tries to deceive the people through doing haram, and sometimes no. He sees that person is religious, let's deceive him through religion itself. This is why the hadith says that if you have waswas, if you're suffering from this disease, again I reiterate, it's a disease, and if the situation exacerbates and you do shak in everything, from a fiqhi perspective, you should disregard your shukuk. Khalas, you just consider your salat to be sahih if you're kathir al-shak. And you can easily become kathir al-shak. And if you doubt in every single prayer, or if you doubt in salat al-dhuhr every single day, khalas, you become kathir al-shak for salat al-dhuhr. Why? Because the religion tries to cure the problem. The hadith says that this is the shaitan. And Imam Sadiq alayhi salam gives us a prescription. If we take this prescription, we can cure this disease, but it's very hard to take it for the waswas. Imam says that this is the shaitan. And one of the traits of the shaitan is arrogance. He's very, 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 very arrogant. So if you're disobedient to the shaitan, he tells you, look, this salat is incorrect. And you tell the shaitan to get lost. One day, you do it 2 days, for 3 consecutive days, you're telling the shaitan to get lost, and you're not paying attention, and you're considering your salat, you consider your salat to be correct. The shaitan will leave you. He's arrogant. He doesn't want to be humiliated any further. But this is why this is the best way. You keep ignoring the shaitan until, inshallah, he goes away. But I don't think it's makruh to use this new counter turba. It's not makruh, but if it distracts you, then yes, we should be focusing on our salat, obviously.
Thank you. So if we do ignore the shak, so the whole problem with the shak is that you want your salat to be accepted, so you're worried that your salat is void. So in that case, do we just assume, inshallah, that it's accepted and we move on?
Obviously, it's like because we're not here to do certain things, to seek the pleasure of God by doing certain things. We should see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, and become obedient through, for example, one's duty might be to fast, and one's duty might be to break his fast. I was telling a brother, he had to take his medications, so he wasn't feeling good about not being able to fast while everyone is fasting. I said, your duty is to break your fast. Your ibadah, you are being obedient to God through not fasting. And the people that can fast, they would fast. So you would be worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you ignore the shaitan. Because the shaitan is the antithesis of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
He wants to pull you away from God through this ibadah. Through salat, he wants to make you a disobedient servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, and also you're pushing the shaitan away from yourself, and then you would be able to pray properly. So you ignore the shaitan the first couple of weeks, it could be months, and then you would feel better. You'll realize that the waswas has gone away from you.
Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Inshallah.
Thank you, Shaykhna. If we can wrap this up with the Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Ahsantum. May Allah bless you all, and please pray for me. Inshallah, I'll be praying for you as well.